The Karnataka campus face-off over hijab has escalated. From being a student issue, it has now become a full-blown political issue. The Karnataka government has made it clear that the students must follow school rules and uniform. The issue also resonated in Parliament, with the DMK seeking the centre's intervention.
These visuals of girls clad in hijab virtually begging the principal to allow them inside their college premises has gripped the internet. A massive debate has now sparked off after yet another government college in Karnataka banned girls wearing the hijab from attending classes. More than a dozen Muslim girls were seen pleading, crying to the principal and teachers at the Kundapura Government College, expressing their pain of being shunned out of class only for wearing a hijab.
Justice ellarigu same alla hauda alva navu enta keludu namma rights namma hakku ಹೌದಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಬಂದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿ.
ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ನಮ್ದು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಇಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಬತ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಅವ್ರ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಬತ್ತಿದ್ರು, ನನ್ನ ಮಾಮಿ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಇದೇ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದು. ಅಚಾನಕ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗ್ ಬಂತು? ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೇನ್ ತೊಂದರೆ ಉಂಟು ಅದ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಆನ್ಸರೇ ಕೊಡುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತಿಗೆ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಗ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಹೋಗೋದಲ್ವಾ? ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ ಜೋರಾಗಿದ್ರು. ನಾವ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಮಾತಾಡಿ, ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಅದರಿಂದನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ತುಂಬಾ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ನಮ್ಗೊಂಚೂರು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಂತ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
Staying adamant on the Karnataka government's ruling, the Kundapura Government College blatantly refused to allow the girls in wearing the hijab. They were asked to either take it off before entering college or return home. While Kundapura MLA Haladi Srinivas Shetty discussed the issue with the district administration, the Karnataka Home Minister Araga Gnanendra insisted it's a dress code and stated that an investigation has been initiated to probe the role of communal forces trying to instigate protests.
ಶಾಲೆ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಮಾನ್ಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಚಿವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಶಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಧರ್ಮದವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಲಿತು ನಾನು ಬೇರೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ನೀನ್ ಬೇರೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಭಾರತ ಮಾತೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಮನೋವೃತ್ತಿಯನ್ನ ಆ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರವನ್ನ ಪಡಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗ್ತದೆ.
Over the last 3 days, the divide between students at the 3 Udupi government colleges has widened as one group of students protesting against the hijab landed up outside college gates wearing saffron robes in symbolic protests, while the shunned group of Muslim girls have been cordoned off at the gates as they desperately attempt to convince their managements. As heat mounts on the Karnataka government for the controversial ban on hijab at educational institutions, a political storm has now kicked off. DMK MP Senthil Kumar raised the hijab ban in the parliament, seeking urgent government intervention.
So recently today in Kundapura Government College in Karnataka, women children wearing hijabs were not allowed inside the government college gates in Karnataka. Why was it done? Because yesterday saffron-clad people had gone inside and they had threatened and they had this thing. The government should at once take action upon them.
Congress MP Shashi Tharoor and PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti too slammed the BJP for enforcing a hijab ban. Calling India a religiously diverse country, Mehbooba Mufti tore into the BJP, reminding the party of the Indian constitution, disallowing the state to interfere with religious practices.
जो भी कुछ हो रहा है ये बदकिस्मती है जो बीजेपी ने इस पूरे मुल्क के अंदर माहौल बना के रखा है, जिसमें वो एक ही किस्म की जबान, एक ही किस्म का लिबास, एक ही किस्म का मजहब चलाना चाहते हैं. ये चलने वाला नहीं. ये हिंदुस्तान है, यहाँ अलग अलग मजहब के लोग रहते हैं, अलग अलग लिबास, अलग अलग जबानें हैं. उसी वजह से ये मुल्क जिंदा है. ये हिजाब पे इस तरह बैन लगाना मैं समझती हूँ ये गलत है.
It's been over a month since many Muslim girls at least 3 government colleges in Karnataka have been desperately trying to convince their management to allow them inside classes wearing the hijab. Examinations are barely 2 months away, and even as the petition has been filed in the Karnataka High Court against this rule, these students' future hangs in limbo. Nabila Jamal for India Today.
As the Karnataka government justifies saying the hijab ban has been enforced to maintain uniformity, the issue has now sparked a constitutional debate. Nabila Jamal speaks to Supreme Court advocate KV Dhananjay and a concerned follower, Seema Mohsin. Listen in.
As the debate over hijab inside educational institutions rages on in Karnataka, and we are receiving reactions from all over the country, I have with me our Supreme Court advocate KV Dhananjay to give us a perspective here, along with a follower herself, Seema Mohsin. Seema, I'll start with you. Here is a debate over, in fact, a ban by the Karnataka government not allowing female students to wear hijab inside classrooms, saying that it ruins the dress code of the institution. All students must be equal inside classroom. You do what you want, practice what you want the outside. How would you receive this?
See, in India, what we are seeing of late is that the plural spaces are being shrunk. In education institutions, which we also have attended, and we had no problems wearing hijab. Hijab is not something that will distinguish us or make us something very alien. Those children, if you can watch them, they are wearing a full uniform and they are covering their heads with the same color dupatta which has been provided as a part of their uniform. So now, all of a sudden, the intolerance that is there and the the othering of the Muslim community that is happening in the country is an outcome of that these people are with so much of impunity are going around and talking this way. I think hijab is not at all an issue for anybody, just like how bindi is not an issue, just like how the turban which the Sikh community men wear is not a issue. I don't think hijab also should be an issue. And our country is a very beautiful country because we have been living with this kind of pluralism from quite many ages. And we have learned to live with it. It is not something that is coming in the way of anybody else. So when the education institutions are imparting education, but robbing the students of their fundamental right is something that is not a very good sign in a secular democratic country of ours. That is what I would say.
Seema, stay with us. I'm going to cut across to KV Dhananjay, who's been very closely observing these developments in Karnataka. Mr. Dhananjay, it's a fundamental right, but it's not absolute. That's what the Constitution says. So it appears that the Karnataka government believes that this is not part of decorum. They believe that students must be equal inside classroom. And why wear your religion on your sleeve? Inside class, you're all equal. Outside, you do what you want, practice what you feel like.
Well, if only the Karnataka government, which currently is with the BJP dispensation, would have taken assaults on minorities seriously, then you could have believed everything that they say in these matters. But you certainly, will have to connect this with what's been happening to the minorities and with the sense of security or lack of security that they've come to experience. Then you will see that this is a very disturbing trend. And this is really very mischievous because academically, there are scientists, adorned actually, well-accomplished scientists who happen to wear hijab to their labs. And they've, in fact, they've worn a hijab when they go to receive some of these medals and awards and all that. So who is making a case that wearing of a hijab would interfere with academic discipline? That's really not the case at all. And the other aspect is the colleges and institutions where you will find these disturbances are institutions which have witnessed women wearing hijab for a long time. These are not institutions that were set up last month or last year. These are institutions that have been in existence for 25, 30, 40 years. They have witnessed continuous, tradition of many Muslim women wearing hijab. Now, if that has not been a problem so far, how does it become a problem suddenly? So you will see that somebody is trying to engineer all of these issues. When I say engineer, all I mean to say is the girls must have the freedom to do what girls before them have done. So freedom is the most important issue here. When they were stopped, they obviously had a right to protest, and I'm glad that some of them have taken Some of them have taken their protest to the High Court. So you're not going to look at it in isolation. And Muslim women, or for that matter, there are many sects within the Hindus, many groups within the Hindu, religion, where women would want to cover their faces. There are, we had this discussion earlier. There are the Marwari women, and there are these Gungats, and all. People must feel free to carry on with their traditional costume. And the law that we currently have in Karnataka is the Karnataka Education Act of 1983. It explicitly says every institution will have to be registered and recognized with the government of Karnataka, and every institution, be it government owned or aided or private unaided, has to ensure that there is no religious discrimination. And religious discrimination in this context means the freedom of those girls to do what girls before them have done over the last 25, 30 years. That freedom being interfered with, that is religious discrimination. And if we had knowledgeable people sitting in the Department of Education, I'm very confident that they would have, in fact, returned to these institutions and warned them of withdrawing the recognition itself if they were to continue their resistance to hijab.
But interestingly, here are government colleges that are issuing this direction, saying that the government has issued a notice. In fact, a circular has gone out to these institutions, and it's not the private institutions that we've heard of a case like this. It's the government-run colleges in Karnataka, mostly parts of Udupi, Kundapur, that have issued this direction there. So is there a written rule or a notice that's been sent against hijab by the Karnataka government? Would you know?
No, none to my knowledge. And assuming somebody bothers to come out with a rule just to cover up themselves, they would know that these rules are inferior to a law made by the Karnataka state legislature. And that law is the Karnataka Education Act of 1983. That will prevail over all of these, notices and circulars and all of these inferior rules, what we call them as in law. So I think the Karnataka government has no justification whatsoever to resist women from wearing hijab. And if they were to say that, look, there is a section of other students who began to wear saffron robes in opposition and in protest, they have to really wonder why the students will have to wear saffron robes to prevent someone else from doing what they've been doing all the while. Now, if those who wish to wear...
that question, actually, I'll toss it to Seema Mohsin. Seema, you had students there in counter-protest and as a symbolic protest, wore saffron robes and showed up outside college saying if they can wear hijab, we must also be allowed to wear saffron robes inside. So allowing one person to follow their religion will, should be, a policy across all religions. That's the request by students. Allow us also to wear our saffron robes. Tomorrow they'll wear something else and come. They should be allowed if it's under the religion, their religious ambit.
See, if the Hindu religion had this kind of a rule and the children were practicing this, it would not have been a problem at all. If they wear saffron robe or any other color robe, I would say if you wear tricolor, flag-colored robes and move around, see, that's nothing a problem. If it is only just because the Muslim girls are wearing a hijab and this kind of this one as a resistance, you come out wearing a saffron robe and you say that you threaten and say that if you allow these girls, we'll also do it. So this is ridiculous. Actually, this kind of intolerance that is there in the society, and of late it is happening so much more after the BJP government has come in the center, and now with the BJP government at the state also. This is taking a very ugly turn, and kind of insecurity amongst
the BJP government says there is no politics here. It's all about the dress code inside an educational institution. This is what the dress code says. You got to wear your uniforms the way the college has prescribed it. If you didn't want to come to that school, so according to you, there was no ruling like this earlier. It's come about now.
We also attended the colleges and schools and colleges and universities, and we didn't have this kind of a problem at all. In fact, I attended a convent school wherein there was a chapel, and we Muslim girls were allowed to pray to do, because we are practicing Muslims, we are allowed to do namaz over there. And when I visited the Hindu friends' houses, if it was a prayer time, they used to make a place for us where it would be clean for us to do our salah. So there was this kind of a feeling that was there. I also remember when we were children, though we did not believe in Ganesh, during Ganesh festival, they used to my Hindu friends used to go around to see 100 Ganesha, which they considered would get them good marks. We don't know, we will not believe it, but we would accompany them, and we had no problem in being with them to play Holi or to lit firecrackers during Diwali. And same was with them when they came to celebrate Eid and other festivals of Muslim communities.
It's not like that option hasn't been taken, or it's not seen. In the India's fabric itself is so diverse and culturally intertwined that it's beautiful. Actually, if you see that people are so loving and celebrate each other's tradition. But when you talk about educational institution, it's a whole different ballgame.
But educational institutions also, you're seeing the children coming with the bindi on their head. They're coming with the turban on their head. And it was okay all these days. All of a sudden, what is happening in the country that all of a sudden the Muslim community is being made the other, and a lot of restrictions and that they have to follow? Well, you're not making these restrictions on any other community. Right. This is something that is worrisome that is happening in the country. This kind of
this is a trend which Seema says is threatening the minorities. She, of course, from a larger perspective, looks at it as being marginalized.
Well, obviously, because people are, not artificial. People can connect between events. And when institutions which have gone on with this practice for decades suddenly find themselves in conflict, and you have BJP in power and trying to make a big thing about it, obviously people are going to feel threatened, and they, in fact, must feel threatened. Otherwise, why are they not going to feel threatened at all? If it is this today, then I'm very sure going forward, it will be something more. Things are
ironically, we speak about the BJP, but our viewers must know that there's not been a whisker from the Congress so far. Not a word from the Congress party, which is the principal opposition party in Karnataka. While the world is speaking of it, you don't have the Congress party reacting to it. So what, are they playing to the gallery?
The opposition parties in Karnataka have no credibility whatsoever. It could be the Congress or the JDS. And I don't think anybody should count on them to protect and then to fight for the rights of minorities, which is in fact a very sacrosanct right under the Constitution. The Constitution of India is not really very different from the Constitution of many other countries of the world. Minorities across the world deserve protection. And minorities in India too deserve the same level of protection. And that is why the Constitution says what it says. It does not, separate itself from other constitutions. There's nothing unusual in what we find in the Indian Constitution. Now, let's go back to what just happened 2 weeks ago. A government school teacher was in fact suspended because she allowed a few Muslim students to carry on namaz. And why did she do that? She did that because she felt if the students were allowed to go all the way up to the mosque, there was a possibility of an accident, which did take place some time earlier. She was suspended. Now, look at the irony here. Every government school or nearly every government school in Karnataka will in fact be funded and then be paid a certain expense to carry on a Saraswati Puja. If we don't stop Saraswati, or if we don't have a problem with Saraswati Puja in our government schools, nobody has a right whatsoever to say that namaz cannot be carried out. And, the intentions of the teachers were really so protective of children, but yet she was suspended. So when you start looking at these things, you will see a really very bad pattern, and it's important for people to speak out. I'm very sure a lot of people might be assuming.
This is such an issue where students who are supposed to be writing their examination are not allowed inside their college premises. About 8 students from one college, a bunch of them from the other college. It's now a ripple effect. We're seeing a good at least 3 colleges in just the last few weeks who have already sent out their students with hijab, saying if you don't shun it, don't enter college premises. And these girls are obviously not willing to take off their hijab while entering their classrooms. And what's happening now is it's putting at risk their academic future now. Their exams are fast approaching, but they're outside gates waiting for permission to enter. Now, they've appealed to the High Court. Mr. Dhananjay, a quick word from you. What do you expect from the High Court? No order has come so far. Isn't this an issue to be fast-tracked, looking at the students' future?
Obviously, this is an issue to be fast-tracked, and I don't think these are matters that deserve to be debated for days and weeks on end. What has been carried out in that institution for decades together cannot be made out as an argument against academic discipline. Nobody can make a meaningful argument and say that what these institutions have tolerated for 30, 40 years is in fact something against academic discipline. So I think the deck is stacked against the government, and matters like this deserve to be expeditiously dealt with.
Right.
I'm very confident that the girls who approach the High Court will in fact have the law declared in their favor. The government is going to lose because the government is carrying out a mischief in the name of whatever power it is in fact
Well,
enforcing.
we'll see if the government buckles. In fact, here we're looking at an expert committee. The government itself is put together to try and come to a solution on what can be done. But a quick word as I wrap here, Seema, how important is the hijab for you? How sacred is it? Can you ever pull it out in public? Are you allowed as per your religion?
See, I do it out of my free choice. Nobody imposes this on me. And as per my understanding of my religion, the hijab is prescribed for the believing women. And there are many women who do it out of their free will. And I don't think that kind of a restriction should be laid on upon us. The constitution of our country gives us the right to practice, profess, and propagate our religion in Article 25. And when this kind of right is available, if at all it is being interfered and it is being we are being subjugated in this manner, I don't think it is right thing to happen, and I would definitely not want to do it.
Right, Seema, thank you very much. Mr. Dhananjay, appreciate your time for joining us and giving us a perspective on that. We're going to continue tracking those developments there. Let's see what the High Court says and how soon an order comes about on that. Thank you for watching.